Welcome to the College Football Apostles, where we love college football. And we're going to break things down in a very simple way for you, the way you understand what's going on in the world of college football. So I'm George Wrighster. He's Ralph Amsden. And make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend about the show. Make sure that you share so we can keep bringing this dope content to you. We're going to be talking about a couple things today. So the NCAA antitrust lawsuits are there's obviously a settlement, $2.8 billion, almost 2.77. And that is going to, like, the details of it or the lack of details of it are coming out. And I think that the system is more broken now than it even was prior to this. That the new transfer rules are gonna give you some seventh, eighth year players. It's wild. And of course, these new kickoff times are being announced for the first 3 weeks of the season. And of course, we got to deal with those. But we'll start though with the antitrust lawsuit, Ralph, because of course this is a thing, right? $2.77 billion. Money's going back. I'm not getting any money because they're only going to go back about 6 years. And but at the same time, this looks like, on its face, yes, this is a great thing and all of this. But Ralph, I believe that the system is now more broken because they don't have answers to any of the questions that they need answers to be able to move forward. They just agreed on a number that the Power Five conferences would agree with. Like, even though the Board of Governors already agreed on it for the NCAA, five people opposed it, and you got the other 22, 27 conferences saying, yeah, no, we object to the payment where we're going to be responsible for $990 million in payments, um, other schools while the Power Five schools are only responsible for $664 million, despite them making like 90% of the money. So we have more problems than we have answers at this point in time. That's why we're here to break this down for you. And it also is, you don't know what you're doing with Title IX. You don't know any of this stuff, Ralph. So how is this a good thing?
Well, I mean, the first step to your destination, the journey begins with a step, right? I I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I agree that it's more confusing now than it was before they announced the terms of the settlement. At least they know that they're going to have to move in this direction that they should have moved into 25 years ago when they started getting these massive television checks. Like, had they just realized that the invitation of unlimited money was going to cause the labor force to say, where is my part in that? And the NCAA should be forced to answer that question. And now they have been. Now, the the amount that they came up with, there was no unionization of players or former athletes being able
No.
to set those terms. You have to imagine a lot of that money is going to go to lawyers, which I absolutely hate that that's the case, as in any settlement. But to set up a structure moving forward where players get to participate in the revenue they produce, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You know the destination. When you know the destination, that's true north. That's what they're going
Well,
to be moving to. But so
Well,
what
that's not
you
the
tell
bad
me
thing.
where
This is just a band-aid. I think that people are looking at this like that this is the solution, but it is putting a band-aid, and this is not going to prevent further lawsuits. More lawsuits are coming. Like, that's the thing, is that this settlement was the accumulation of three lawsuits, and they decided to settle, in one big pie. All they cared about was the number, that the number felt palatable to them, rather than having like $20 million in damages, which could bankrupt the NCAA, bankrupt athletic departments, all of these things. So there's an inherent problem there, is that this is a band-aid, and now they're and hold up, let me give you a few more of the give the people a few more of the details, because that's the part that bothers me. Is that so? There's the backwards payment, 6 years backwards, and then going forward, they don't even know whether they're going to handle the back payments and the forward payments as the same way. But that's probably the smallest of the issue. There's the Title IX issue, where should this money be going? Because Title IX says one thing, but reality says that the men have generated about 90% of this money, so that's probably where the money should be going.
Can I ask you a question that I've never understood?
Yeah.
What does revenue have to do with what schools kick in as far as the trade of your presence at my university and your participation in extracurricular sports in order for the tools to do that job? Because that's always been the exchange: is the scholarship, the room, the board, all of it is tools so that you can do your job to promote the university. Some of
Yeah.
that comes at a loss. In fact, it always came at a loss until the television money came into place, until there were revenue generating sports. But if a sport is generating revenue, why do people who do not generate revenue, whether you're on the rowing team
Ooh.
or fencing or whatever it is, why do they get to participate in a completely separate thing?
That is a good question, because basketball and football have generated the majority of the money. Now, women's basketball, they have a tournament which generates money, so there should be money there. Softball does some numbers on television, but but you're right. Swimming, rowing, well, crew, and all of these other sports, they do no numbers. They operate at a net loss. And one of the things that people don't always understand about the athletic department budgets is that they are use it or lose it budgets.
Yeah.
So at the end of the year, they're like, "Oh wow, the training staff will say, "Damn, we still got 20 grand left. Let's go buy new cushions and reupholster the and put new carpet in the training room because we need it because it's time for an update." So that's the reason why some of these athletic departments don't operate in a surplus on some of these levels, because it's a use it or lose it budget. Because if they go line by line and they're like, oh, the training staff, they don't need that $20,000 because they didn't use it, but then the next year they actually do need to buy some new piece of technology or something like that that is going to cost that, it's not going to then be in their budget. So the heads of it are always trying to spend up to the last dollar because they want to be able to have that budget available for the next season. And we are looking, so this whole payment system is supposed to start in the fall of 2025, Ralph. And this agreement is supposed to last 10 years. The system is broken when and I'm talking about not even on just the playing the player side, Ralph. I'm talking about how are these athletic departments, when you have UCLA paying Cal not having enough money already, UCLA not having enough money already. How are they're operating at a significant deficit. So like they're not being run like businesses. And they're not being run like Arizona State, I think, is doing a great thing. Putting the athletic department as part of the entire university as opposed to trying to act like it's a separate entity. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm saying it's broken, is that if you're trying to keep the athletic departments as a separate part of the university, but then you're subsidized, I don't think it makes sense.
Well, first of all, like, amateurism was never real. It was something that we invented, uh, and it greatly advantaged people in administrative positions and the institutions as a whole. We know this. It, even if you believe that amateurism was correct, even if you enjoyed it more, even if you're completely turned off by the players finally getting their share, you have to admit that we made it up and that it greatly, greatly, greatly benefited the institutions and the administrators
Yes.
because they were capless essentially. We are 27 years removed from our first $1 million ball coach. That was Steve Spurrier in 1997. the trajectory from 1997 to 2017, that 20 years, if we continued that from 2017 to 2037, we're going to have a coach in 2037 getting 50 million annually like they're Kevin Durant. It like the trajectory that things are on cannot continue without benefiting the people that the system is built around promoting. So why can't sports that acted under the old system and were a loss lead for the university to promote itself? Now, you can blame colleges that maybe expanded athletics beyond their capacity.
Yeah.
That's a conversation that we can definitely have. And if a college, this might seem callous, George, and I wonder how you feel about this. If a college expanded sports and what they offer beyond their means,
Yeah.
I don't have sympathy for them being in a situation where they have to retract to get back into a more financially responsible place. The sports is a privilege. It's a
Yeah.
privilege, and I don't think it comes at the cost of you can't blame basketball that you don't have tennis anymore at your school. You can't. If tennis doesn't generate
Well,
revenue and the school does not believe it worthwhile to continue with tennis because they've become in the business of generating revenue, then that's tough breaks. I
you
don't
bring
love it.
I hate it, Ralph. I hate that because number one, Olympic sports matter. That's that's the first thing. Olympic sports, they do matter.
Right.
I do think that it is an issue when we look at not just the Olympic sport part of it, but when we look at, I guess, the entire way that the system and has been, you know, put put together. Because if you're gonna lose, like, those other sports are kind of feel like the fabric of the school. But here's the other part. You brought up, that it should be run like a business and all of that. That brings up two words: private equity, which has been talked about. People are like, yeah, this is a potential option. This and this. Ralph, that is the nuclear button. That is the button that people think that they want pushed, and they do not want that button pushed. You do not want private equity in the world of college football. So I belong to private equity. Private equity, and I have friends who are in that. That is their business. Private equity squeezes the life out of things. It is about profit. It is not about the good of sports. It is never going to be about doing what's right for the sport. It is going to be doing what's right for the budget. Like, for instance, in the NFL, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they have to make decisions that are right for the sport, even though it's not right for the budget, because they understand the big picture of growing the sport, the optics, all of this stuff. That's not what private equity does. Private equity is going to look at these coaches' contracts. They will never look the same. That trajectory of $50 million, it will never get there, buddy. Never, under any circumstances, because they will understand that that money can be best used elsewhere, and other people who are qualified and will do a good job will take that job for less.
Well, and the age of the bagman will come to an end, or you'll continue to have it outside the bounds of what private equity has to offer. Because who is going to approve? Like, first of all, the whole Jaden Rashada contract would have died on the vine
Yes, it
if
would have
somebody was
never even
actually
gotten.
responsible.
Yeah, they'd have been
Right.
like, man, if you don't get out of here. Here's how much there will become a base pay. Now that part people will like. There will become a base pay for 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars. Like, there will become a base pay for that. Base pay for starters. Like, that's what private equity will. It will organize it better.
Yeah.
But in terms of, like, what happens to your athletic departments, what happens to your non-revenue generating sports, what happens to all of that stuff. Oh, it is going to get streamlined and squeezed.
So here is my question, because I brought this up last week and I'm really curious as to your thoughts. If instead of private equity, if instead of inviting investors in, because Brett Yormark from the Big 12 just said that he's open to the idea
Yeah.
of private equity making an entrance into collegiate athletics. What if instead of private equity, we had like we do with corporations, the New York Stock Exchange, the Nasdaq? What if the Power Four had a stock exchange, and the alumni of those schools were allowed to invest? So it's not just donations to name, image, and likeness anymore, but the private equity essentially becomes public trading of alumni.
Ooh.
So
Well,
you could
see,
actually buy into your program. You could have a voice. You could elect leadership that gets to be in meetings with athletic director, over certain matters of maybe
mhm.
setting a budget. It'd probably all be like rubber stamp type stuff. But what if there was an alumni network that actually could be in an ownership position, sort of like the Green Bay Packers,
What
right?
if
Where
Yeah, but the difference between the Packers is that their people have that their owners, quote unquote, air quotes, have no say. They have no, like, they literally have no power. Whereas, let's say I was buying into the Oregon Ducks, right?
Mhm.
And but I got a boatload of money. Now, when shares become available, I'm buying buku shares of it. So now I am now a powerful person within this organization. And what happens when in stocks and companies and all of that stuff, when somebody wants somebody ousted? Hostile takeovers. So now
That's
there
true. You probably have to put a cap on individuals to where no one person could go over
Yeah,
49%
but
or
what if
something like
but
that.
but what if it's me and my three friends and we and me, Phil Knight, and the Papes? We
Then you're going to
we
get a voice.
and,
Then
and
you're going to
we
get a
and
voice because
and
you're an
we own
investor.
70% of the company, and we decide that we want to change things. So you're going to open it up to hostile takeovers of athletic departments.
There has to be a system in place where the vote or the things that you're involved in are severely limited. Athletic departments aren't even going to enter into any situation unless they can control it. And
Yeah, that's what I'm
so,
saying.
but opening it up to that, of like becoming an alumni of a university, grants you the ability to buy into owning stock in the athletic department. And then let's say that you have 10% of the purse for bowl game appearances, college football playoffs, March Madness, things like that, all get kicked back as disbursements to the shareholders of that school. So there's a financial incentive to own stock in that. You can actually be rewarded for your participation. I'm saying is, if you're introducing outside money, make that outside money inside money. Let
I
your
do.
alumni
No.
participate in an ownership
I
program.
do. I think that that's actually reasonable. I do. The And it's probably more palatable than to have the pressures of private equity money, because private equity is going to have a voice. It's going to have a big, huge voice in those things.
How long before an Ohio State fan would go get a Michigan degree just so that they could buy a bunch of shares in Michigan and try to ruin things from the inside?
Exactly. Exactly. That's
we'll
that's
we'll
college
find a way
football.
to break anything. But I
Ex-
just I like that better than like Monsanto owning part of Iowa football.
Sequoia Capital owning part of Sequoia Capital owning Facebook and Stanford football.
Speaking of outside corporate money, though, George, they are talking about putting advertising jersey patches on college uniforms. As a fan of the Los Angeles Lakers, brought to you by Wish.com, how do you feel about that?
Oh, it's coming. It's coming. I I I hated it with a power of 1,000 suns when they did it in the NBA. It's coming because that's money. That's money there. Now, you know who's going to push back against that?
Nike, Adidas.
Uh huh. Uh huh. Now, granted, they couldn't fight against it in those. They couldn't fight against it in the NBA. However, though, in college football, I don't know how much they would be able to fight against it either. Even though, oh man, but that's literally a huge revenue generator right there.
Okay, so let's say that you. All right, scenario. You're the marketing director. You control the entire marketing budget,
Okay.
entire marketing budget
All right.
for Summer's Eve. Do you know what Summer's Eve is?
Yes, of course. The feminine product maker.
Yeah. So you control the entire budget. You are their marketing manager. You have the opportunity to approach a team that just appeared as the runner-up in all of college football last year and get some attention for your brand. You, as the marketing manager of Summer's Eve, do you go to University of Washington and say, this is a worthwhile investment for my company to have Summer's Eve on all of the University of Washington football jerseys?
Um. So, had you intentionally
And you're
named
ready to you're ready to drop the whole budget, like
you you intentionally named the University of Washington in here to make this more polarizing of a topic, but I'm gonna douse water. I'm gonna throw cold water on you right now because Summer's Eve is not going to throw the budget at the University of Washington football team. They would probably have thrown it at the University of Iowa women's basketball team last year because they want to market to. And granted, there are a ton of women who are
any
college
company
football.
would have. Any company would have.
Yes. So I do think that it's got to make sense for their consumers more than anything. And then also, I think that there's going to be some there has to be some brand cohesion. Like you can't just take any old money that walks in the door just
All right.
because it's a lot of money.
I'm gonna give you a team. You give me a company. All right.
All right.
Iowa State.
Cat.
Okay. Miami.
Um. Ooh. Tommy Bahama.
Okay. Okay. Texas Christian University.
Ooh. Um. Texas Christian University. Some hospital. Some like hospital system.
Okay. Last one. Let's go with University of Colorado.
University of Colorado. Oh, they need a fun sponsor. They need uh they're
Prime
gonna
Energy.
end up with somebody like Alibaba or Wish or somebody like that. Some obscure company that like you don't normally shop at, and you're like, what the hell is this? And then you find out that the company is huge overseas, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Do you think Dion could make Temu cool?
Oh God, yes, Timu or Tubi for Dion. Yes.
All right.
All right. So now on to the next thing. So there are new transfer rules. Ralph, can you explain to the folks what's going on with the new transfer rules? Because when I first saw it, I was like, hold up, this is confusing because I'm out of fingers.
Okay, so there was a federal lawsuit filed in West Virginia that was essentially saying that NCAA transfer rules unjustifiably restrain the ability of college athletes to engage in the market for their labor as D1 athletes. when this was filed, it caused back in December a restraining order to be put on anybody who was being held out for things like a double transfer,
Yeah.
which we know that football players at University of Colorado, Arizona State, Florida State, North Carolina last year all were losing time to this
Yeah.
and had to go through multiple NCAA appeals. Some people never got their seasons back. In the case of North Carolina, I think Devontae Walker ended up getting to play the last 8-9 games or something. Um, but this lawsuit ended up being settled, and now you are able to transfer without any restriction. So you can go
Yeah.
from school to
Okay.
school
Yeah.
without having to sit out. And anybody who has sat out a transfer year and is still in college is going to get a year back, which means guys like Cam Rising, who is about to play his 6th year in college football, but technically has 4 separate red shirts mixed in there. Because last year he didn't play due to injury. His
Yeah.
freshman year, he only had 1 snap. He had a transfer sit out, and his first year at Texas, I don't believe he played. So technically, he could play 7 years of college football because he's going to get a year back, and he's eligible now due to
God.
injury and COVID. So,
Dude,
um,
dude, if he goes back to college, and now mind you, that is a distinct possibility because let's say if you're Cam Rising and you are not, so let's clear this up for people. So people who sat out in the 1920 season, they can now get a year of eligibility back. So that means that you're going to have that's 1920, 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25. So, yeah. So guys who are getting had 6 years could potentially get a 7th year.
yes, absolutely. And then there's guys like Jake Smith who have been held out for 3 years in a row because he had to sit out a transfer year. Then he got hurt. And then when he left without ever even practicing at USC, the NCAA called it a double transfer. So he got held out last year at Arizona State. Jake Smith has not played in 3 years. He's on his final year of eligibility, but the NCAA might give him 1 more year back because of this. So I think some people it'll be helpful for, but
Yeah.
we thought we were at the
So,
end
but
of
if you're
guys
Cam
playing at
Rising,
23, 24.
correct. So, but if you're Cam Rising, you are obviously 20, like 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that you're not projected to be a first round pick. Let's say that he comes back with like a 4th round grade or a 3rd
Mm-hmm.
round grade.
Yeah.
But Utah, because you guys have a great season, make the college football playoff, they're like, hey, yo, Cam, you want to come back? Here's $2 million. What are you doing? Are
Well,
you
it
being
depends.
Van Wilder and Stan, or are you going?
It really depends to me on how loud all those Big 12 schools booed him on the road. So if I'm a Big 12 fan and Utah comes to visit, I'm gonna be nice because this man might come back. We want him gone. We want to. If Cam Rising came to my stadium, I was a Baylor fan or something like that, I'd be throwing roses on him. I'd be a little golf clap every time he gets up after taking a big
Dude.
hit. I don't want to see him 2 more years. So, but I mean, why? If you could, why not? Why not? If let's say that you're not that interested in being an NFL football player, why not leave college with 4 degrees and 7 years of eligibility?
Yeah.
If
That's
they're going to
crazy.
let you.
Yep. Hey. All right. Now let's get on to the kickoff times, Ralph, because the kickoff times have started to be announced for college football for this year and in the early season. The funniest part about this is that remember how much that we talked about on the Pac-12 Apostles about the 9 a.m. kickoff games and how much
In
push.
order to save the conference, we might have to kick off at 9 a.m.
Yep.
Yeah.
And people hated it, pushed back on it, and now what's happening, Ralph?
Well, they didn't save the Pac-12. It broke up. One of the schools that didn't find a home is Oregon State. And I noticed that they've got themselves a 9 a.m. kickoff time
Yep.
anyway, traveling to Boise State. The fact that there's going to be 9 a.m. kickoffs this year, number one, I feel bad for the fan bases that are going to have to endure that, because that's tough. You're going to have to be there, like, especially the people who work at the stadiums are going to have to be there 4:35 in the morning. That part's tough. But I will say I'm reveling in it a little bit, because I want you to also be miserable, George, because I moved to the East Coast 3 years ago, and college football kickoff times have been kicking my ass for 36 months, and it's time for you to also be mad.
Oh no, I'm not
That
gonna
that
be mad because I am I'm up and ready to go at that point in time. So I'm good. But check this out.
You used to be able to run some errands, go to Home
Yes, correct.
Depot, take some kids
Mm-mm.
to
Nope,
practice.
nope, nope. F them kids. F them kids on Saturday. All right. So
Don't you coach some of their sports?
hey, what did I just say? F them kids, man. It's college football season. There's commitment, Ralph. There's commitment.
I'm sorry, guys. They're making me sit. That they're making me eat cereal and watch college football.
Exactly. So here's the other part about these kickoff times. These kickoffs that were announced. Look at the Big 12. Just in week 3 alone, they are going to have games on ESPN, Fox, ESPN2, FS1, ESPNU, ESPN or ESPN2, CBS Sports, and CBS, all in the same week. So, and then when you look at the other conferences, you're going to have um you're going to have a lot of SEC on the pack on ESPN. You got Fox with Fox has, Big 10 games, ACC, Big 12, Big 10, a lot of Big 10. They got Mountain West with Oregon State. They got SEC with Alabama and Wisconsin. And then you can think about the amount of games on Peacock and everything. So my takeaway from that is I love it, Ralph. I love it because the more college football games on, you can watch them anywhere. You can watch them on Peacock. You can watch them on NBC, ABC. Like there's so much more inventory is available, and I'm here for it.
I'm excited too. I'm a little scared this year because we put all our energy, for the most part, we watched a lot of the big games, but all my energy the last several years has been focused on the Pac-12. I'm getting ready for an 11:15 p.m. kickoff so I can watch Washington State play Oregon State, and now I gotta be paying attention to a lot more, if we're gonna not look like fools on this show. So I personally, I'm a little intimidated. I'm a little scared. I am glad to not have to pay $720 a year for Sling anymore, just so that I can have one channel. So I'm excited to be saving that money and being able to watch college football on all these networks that I do have.
Yeah.
But I am a little bit intimidated by the amount of college football that's going to be on and how much it's spread out.
Yeah, I'm excited to not have to Jimmy rig my like VPN, make sure it's on at home and everything else to make sure I can watch the
Ew.
Pac-12 internet.
weren't you watching Pac-12 games on like YouTube Europe?
Yes, yes, on the Pac-12 international feed. Hey man, look, listen. I tried to get Pac-12 network. It didn't work. That's not my problem. Listen, you should have, and that was the demise of the conference. They didn't make it easily accessible. So that's not that. I feel no cares. I give no f's about it.
Well, speaking of watching stuff, can I give you a little plug
Okay.
here? Go to unafraidshow.com. We got some videos up this week. George Wrighster breaking down the 10 college
Oh
football
yes.
quarterbacks that will have the biggest impact on whether or not their team appears in the college football playoff this year. We're putting out content and shorts every single day on Unafraid Show on YouTube. Um, definitely check that out as we gear up. We're one day away from June, which means we're 1 month away from the media days, which means we're 2 months away from some teams kicking off. It's creeping up on us, and we'll be putting a lot of stuff up on Unafraid Show to get people ready for the season.
You damn right. And you guys, that's the Unafraid Show. Pac-12 Apostles today. Peace out. Catch you guys next week.